The reason why it's important is because it gives us a place that we can get together to enjoy each other's company, to have a place to escape from where we're at. We get help, they listen to our problems. It's a good place because we're treated like human beings and they really care what they do.
My wife Amy and I went and visited the sanctuary on what was a dark and gray afternoon. And when we walked in the sanctuary, the first thing that we recognized was the staff. And while the staff, yes, is comprised of social workers, what they really were warm and caring and compassionate and interested and engaged, what we called miracle workers. And we talked to many of the people on the staff, and to a person they said how blessed they were to work at Sanctuary, which really struck my wife and I in a very emotional way, because we were thinking that the women and children that make their way to Sanctuary were the ones that were blessed, when in fact that's not how the staff sees it. They see it as a true calling, that every day they get to work with these women and children, and every day they get to look in the face of God.
We offer food. We have a food pantry back in the back that we're able to give out to, but we get that from the food bank, a lot of the food from them.
Last year the sanctuary served 1,500 people, 1,500, and really giving them their self-worth back, their dignity, their confidence. I asked some of the staff members if they had more resources, would they expand and serve more people? And they explained to me that the size and, if you will, the coziness of Sanctuary is part of its effectiveness. And if they had more resources, they would likely open another sanctuary. I then asked them, would they think that they would draw from the sanctuary and cut down the numbers if they had a second location? And they looked at me straight in the face and said, we could have 3 more locations and each one would serve another 1,500 people. That was incredible to my wife and I.
It is my calling, and I've worked with the homeless for over 20 years, and it is what I am supposed to do. All the way from a toothbrush, all the way to housing and clothing and different necessities like that, to some needing psychological help as well.
We don't see any one story the same. There is no one face of homelessness. Some of the women that come to us are couch homeless, going from friend to friend or neighbor to neighbor and spending a night or two on a couch. Some of them are traditional homeless. Some of them have just had a terrible life event. Maybe it's the fire in the house, or lost a job, or lost a spouse. Whatever it might be, they found themselves in a situation.
All of our programs try to teach self-sufficiency as much as possible. We don't just want to give them rent or utility assistance, we want to give them a tool so that in that moment of crisis they're not experiencing those hardships again. So we want to make sure that if ever they have a crisis, they have the tools to deal with it.
When they come in, they're either living on the streets or they come from the shelters, and then what we do is kind of just meet their basic needs or any immediate needs that they're needing.
You know, I was hungry and you gave me to eat. That's a great response, and it's a necessary response. But if you're in relationship and if you're going to travel a journey so that this is a way station and not a destination, you want to engage with them, you want to honor them by holding them to account for their decisions, by asking them to make better decisions, by working with them and empowering them to make those better decisions, so that when they leave, they're not going to come back in the front door 3 months later because, you know, you ultimately were not successful in preparing them for success on the outside.
I'm gonna miss the place when I leave, but I think I'll be okay on my own.
Holy Family Home is not like the sanctuary in that it's not an emergency shelter. It's a residential environment that gives women a long-term plan to be sustainable on their own.
At Holy Family Home, we provide them meals and a bed. which gives them that peace that they have a safe place to go. But then the families are strengthened by working with the case manager and planning for that future.
It's not just the fact that people need a place to live and that they need food. They need help, you know, talking with someone. They need help like with a counselor. They need help with school. They need, you know, they need spiritual classes. They need so much more than just the basic living in a shelter. That's not what we're about. We're about bettering themselves and having them better themselves. Not us doing it for them, but they reach out and do that for themselves.
The Holy Family Home is a place for people to come that have gotten down on their luck. They're homeless women and women with families, and we have all sorts of women here. We have high school students here. We have 55, 60-year-old women here. We have people with master's degrees. We have people that need GEDs. So it's just a place for people to come and start over.
This is a place that helps you get on your feet when you have nowhere to go.
Our visit to Holy Family Home really had a profound impact on my wife Amy and I. The first young woman that we met was a teenager that was adopted when she was 5 years old from Russia to a family in California. This family at some point determined that either they didn't want her any longer or couldn't afford her any longer and put her up for adoption again. As we understand it, she was then adopted by a family and moved to Oklahoma. And a very similar thing happened again, where she was either not wanted or neglected, and she found herself alone again as a very young teenager, essentially homeless, what they call couch homeless, hopping from acquaintance to acquaintance's home, sleeping on their couch with no income, no prospects, dropped out of school, and really alone.
I heard about this program from my teacher, Miss Heather, up at Del City, and she got me into this program.
She's working towards a degree and doing very well. That's a perfect example of how they help someone who really doesn't have anywhere else to turn. Amy and I spent some time talking to an absolutely incredible woman, mother of two small children that were with her at the Holy Family Home. A little boy, a little baby, and a little girl. Little girl spent most of the time that we were there carrying that baby around in her arms. She explained to us that she was her children's last, best, and only hope of breaking a life in a cycle of incarceration. That I think she told us that both her parents were in jail, that her grandparents had been incarcerated, that the father of her children was in jail, and that his parents were incarcerated as well, and that she was the only member of her family that wasn't. And she was the only one that would be able to give her children an opportunity for a different sort of future.
Said I was going through a lot of personal problems, and I got out the situation, but I didn't know what step to take next. And when they told me about this place, I was kind of scared, nervous or whatever, but they accepted me in. And since I've been here, it's been like home. I get along with all the staff. All the staff that's here are wonderful. My daughter tells me like every other day, like, Mom, I'm glad you go to school. Now we both go to school.
This Green Tie Gala covers and allows us to cover the vast majority of our operating costs, all of the operating costs for our sanctuary operation, which served more than 1,400 women in 2012, 110 of which found their way into permanent housing outside of our program. I'd also like to take a minute, if any out there or those seeing this video would like to come and take a tour of Sanctuary and see firsthand the powerful good that is going on, or to come out to Holy Family Home and to see firsthand the lives being transformed through their time with us.
Catholic Charities is an incredible organization. They believe very much in the St. Benedictine spirit of helping the neediest in our community without prejudice, without judgment, in the Catholic tradition of service. People ask me all the time, how do I get involved, Chris? You know, they don't know what to do. And I tell them, as a member of this community, it is so incredibly important to give back to those that are the neediest, that are the most vulnerable among us. The Sanctuary and the Holy Family Home are both incredibly important organizations. Their programs are so vital to this community. The women that they serve need our help, and they and their children and their families deserve it.